Hi, I'm Katie from BSR Robotics, and I am proud to present our 2024 robot for Crescendo, sponsored by AndyMark and Pacific Steel and Recycling. So our first main two goals when we were building our robot this year was we wanted to have a ground pickup and we wanted to have the ability to shoot into the amp and the speaker. So the main thing that I really liked about this robot was that our intake also doubles as our amp shooter. So you pick up from the ground here, different position, bring it back to about here, backfeed, intake further, so that comes out into the shooter, or the amp right about here, or you could send this all the way back down to here, backfeed our piece into our shooter, and go up through the speaker. I'll be doing a more detailed overview of our shooter. So as you've seen, our intake on our arm can move from different positions, and when we want it to shoot, we will send it all the way back down here. We will continue to intake the note. This back crossbar right here is going to lift the back of the note up, just so that this note doesn't want to get caught on this lip here. We found that this angle of attack does pretty well for us. We have these two smaller green stealth wheels that are our first point of contact that send this note up into our flywheels that are our smooth 4-inch grip wheels from AndyMark, and we found that 6 inches of compression on the note, being 8 inches to 8 inches in the center here, worked very well for us in order to get enough power to shoot up into the speaker. Our shooter is powered by 2 Neos direct drive into our first contact green smaller stealth wheels, and then belt driven up to our blue flywheels.
I'm going to do a detailed overview of the intake here. So we have the 2-inch compliant squished wheels on this top roller, and then just hex shaft on the bottom. The bottom could also be other squish wheels or some kind of grip tape, but we intake it from here and then lift it up to either the amp or speaker for the shooter. We have 2 beam brakes on either side of the intake here that let us know when we have the note indexed enough into the robot before we transfer it. The other thing to note that because we have just the bare hex shaft here and 2-inch wheels here, the note actually has like a difference in linear speeds when it's coming out, so it tends to curve away from the robot. That kind of help for amp scoring because it pushes it towards the amp and away from the bumper gap that we leave when you're squished up there. I'm going to do a detailed overview of the arm now. So from the ground intake position, the arm can articulate from amps, the source intake, amp score, transfer back to the shooter. You have 2 gearboxes down here that power it, so 2 Neos at about a 32-to-1 reduction. We're using a 5-to-1 versaplanetary stage, 60 and 20 tooth gear, and then a 15 and 32 tooth chain sprocket. We're powering on both sides, so we're using the VersaBlocks and the plate sprockets. The arm's been very robust. We use it to climb. All of these gussets and everything are from aluminum donated from Pacific Steel, one of our sponsors this season. Additionally, our climber hooks as well. And for climbing, we're actually not using the torque from the gearboxes and the 2 Neos. We're using a winch here. We got the 57 Sport gearbox from AndyMark and the winch from the Climber in a Box. Even though we're not using the Climber in a Box, we're using the winch to provide the actual force on this cross member to climb. The Climber in a Box can work well. We only received a 1-stage, and we liked using the arm for climbing rather than a 1-stage Climber in a Box, but if you have a 2-stage Climber in a Box, it can work well if you want an independent climb from your intake. As this can almost reach the trap if we had a separate climbing mechanism. We're able to get our robot high enough off the ground to actually use our intake to feed directly down into the trap, similar to how we scored the amp. As we wrap up our robot overview, we want to to say thank you to AndyMark for sponsoring us this season and kind of showcase some of the products that we received that we didn't end up using, but we think might be very helpful for this season. The first being, obviously we went with a over bumper intake, or lifting the note up and around our bumpers, but obviously a lot of teams are looking into an under bumper intake. We didn't really investigate that very much due to our chassis and the restrictions we had there going into this build. We think that the 5-inch compliant stars are actually going to be very, very helpful in that transition from the frame up into your robot a little more. AndyMark offers a couple different durometers of the stars, allowing for variable action with how the note interacts with it, and maybe even some centering with that as well if you use multiple durometers. The other thing is the poly belt. They have a new belt clamp tool that seemed to make the belt welding process much easier. And if your team is looking to do some kind of linear transition for the note along your robot, poly belt and rollers may be a good option there as well. Thank you for watching.